The revolution's begun. The time to stand up has come. We are the rocking of the throne. We are the rocking of the throne.
I'm Victor Tiffany with Revolt Against Plutocracy. Plutocracy is a government of, by, and for the wealthy few, the proverbial 1%. This is a short video that is going to explain which candidate, running as a Democrat, has the ability to defeat Donald Trump. It's based on three sets of analysis, three sets of data points, if you will. The first comes from French political economist Thomas Piketty, who published a study in 2018 showing that based on 70 years of data showing how voters respond to candidates in the United States, in Great Britain, and in France, that poor people and poorly educated people will not vote. They'll stay home on election day unless there's a candidate out there representing their class interest. In other words, a social democrat. Now, we recall in 2016, a lot of Democrats stayed home. They didn't see Hillary Clinton as representing their class interest, and they certainly weren't going to vote for Donald Trump because neither did he. So these are the kind of people that one candidate has the ability to pull out for two reasons. First, Bernie Sanders is a Democratic Socialist. That's an equivalent to Social Democrat. So he's the kind of candidate who will get poor people to register and vote for him. How are they going to do that? He's got an army of 1 million volunteers. Over 1 million people have signed up to help out Bernie Sanders. So you got people who can go out, find people who are not registered in poor neighborhoods, poor rural areas, and get them registered and track them and make sure they're ready to go on election day and take them to the polling place, help them vote. So he's got the army in position to fulfill Piketty's analysis that these people will vote for someone like Bernie Sanders. But there's two other factors involved too. The first, according to polls in 2016 after the election, 20% of Bernie supporters did not vote for Hillary Clinton. 12% of his supporters voted for Trump. They were Bernie or Trumpers. And this is not an unusual thing, unique to Bernie supporters. In fact, even more of Hillary's supporters voted for John McCain in 2008 rather than Barack Obama. So it's something that happens in a two-party system. In 2008 it was called Party Unity My Ass. But in 2016 it was probably no doubt due in large part to the view and understanding that the Clinton machine robbed Bernie Sanders in the 2016 elections for a wide variety of reasons I don't have time to get into. There was voter suppression, there was election fraud, there was sabotage, infiltration and sabotage of Bernie's campaign. There was all kinds of shenanigans that took place in Nevada. There was a Clinton machine that undermined Bernie's chances of getting enough votes, not to mention the superdelegates. So the system was rigged against Bernie in 2016, and that's probably accounts for why a lot of his supporters gave Hillary Clinton the big middle finger and voted for Trump. But there was also the Bernie or busters. This is a perception, this last 8% of Bernie supporters, this analysis that I'm about ready to convey is unique. You won't hear this from pundits or Democratic strategists on television or the Young Turks. They're not going to cover this. We know this because Revolt Against Plutocracy is the Bernie or Bust gang. We wrote the book on how this strategy should work. And in chapter 10 of Bernie or Bust, the chapter called The Blame Game, we looked at the data, the voting data in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And what we're looking at is the increased amount of votes Jill Stein got, Green Party candidate Stein got, because that was the or bust option, or writing in Bernie Sanders. But in Michigan and Wisconsin, they didn't track the write-in votes. That's one reason we dropped the write-in votes, one major reason. If they're not counting votes, we have no way of measuring the effectiveness of or bust. Did Bernie or bust work? So Bernie or bust will work when Bernie is the nominee. But it also works when the nominee, the neoliberal nominee, is defeated. That's or bust. In Pennsylvania, the difference in vote count between Clinton and Trump was greater than the number of votes increased by Jill Stein between 2012 and 2016, and the write-in votes. Pennsylvania, they did count those write-in votes. And Bernie or bust effort fell short of claiming responsibility for Clinton's defeat in 2016 by just over 3,000 votes. In 2016, we started from scratch. We had no idea how to build a short election cycle movement, electoral movement, using this or bust strategy. We figured this out on the fly last time. If we came that close to declaring responsibility, claiming responsibility for defeat of the neoliberal candidate last time, imagine how much better success we will have this time claiming responsibility for the defeat of any one of Hillary Clinton's delegates last time. If any of these candidates who are running this time were a Clinton delegate last time, they're neoliberals. You don't become, it's one thing to endorse or support, vote for a neoliberal. Maybe you're holding your nose as the lesser of two evils. But when you're a delegate for Hillary Clinton, you are a neoliberal. No matter how progressive sounding these people are, they are neoliberals. They made that clear in 2016. So, this time around, we're starting out, the Bernie or bust effort is starting out with nearly 47,000 subscribers left over last time, subscribers to our newsletter. We already have 1,500 new Bernie or busters this time. We don't have to figure out how to build a movement. We know how to do it. We did it last time. We're using the same structures, the same abilities, and this time we also have a bumper sticker. So we're going to have as many Bernie or bust people as possible driving around suburbia and the highways and all across the nation, telling people from their back side of their vehicle that it's going to be Bernie or bust. And we're going to make it clear that only Bernie can defeat Donald Trump. Now, this strategy doesn't mean it's a certainty that Bernie Sanders will defeat Trump. He is, after all, a self-declared democratic socialist. And while that's going to bring in poor people and poorly educated people, it's also going to turn off some independent voters. So there's no guarantee that Bernie Sanders is going to defeat Trump. What we're saying is that it's guaranteed, it's a virtual certainty, that any other candidate will be defeated by Donald Trump. In part because the poor people aren't going to come out and support another neoliberal, and in large part because the Bernie or Trumpers that are out there, we would like to convert them into Bernie or busters, turn them into true revolutionaries, and because we're committed to defeat the neoliberal Democrat. We are out to sabotage them. We will try to run ads in favor of third-party progressive candidates this time, either online or on television, radio, to defeat the neoliberal blue team, because they are more dangerous than Donald Trump. I know that sounds bizarre, that seems strange, but if that's because you don't understand the so-called free trade agreements that these neoliberals are trying to cram down our throats. These are Wall Street's agenda. This isn't your grandfather's free trade agreement. free trade, that is low tariffs, are being used as a Trojan horse to impose corporate rules and regulations on our representatives in government so they can't do their job and protect us from corporate greed. That's Obama's baby, was the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So we don't trust these neoliberals anymore. We don't trust their trade agreements because they are more dangerous than Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominees. That's hard maybe to wrap your head around because you don't understand the threat posed by free trade agreements, modern free trade agreements such as NAFTA and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So that's why Bernie, and only Bernie, has a shot, a good shot, at defeating Donald Trump. And all he has to do is explain that his democratic socialism isn't Marxism, it's basically FDR progressivism. It's expanding human rights, including the right to food, the right to shelter, the right to potable water, the right to health care, and the right to vote. Right? All these things are being suppressed in this country by neoliberals and, of course, right-wing Republicans. Only Bernie will have coattails because he's going to generate enthusiasm that these neoliberals, these Clinton endorsing and Clinton, part of the Clinton machine, aren't going to get from voters. I'm not Donald Trump isn't going to cut it. It didn't cut it in 2016. It's not going to cut it in 2020. Thank you so much.
Revolt Against Plutocracy won't just be covering the news about the necessary revolution in the United States. Sometimes we'll be making the news. If you want to stay on top of the revolutionary actions and strategies of grassroots, genuine progressives, and our allies, please subscribe to our YouTube channel today.